Hey, everybody. Oh, look at this. We have... I was just realizing that we've got Susan's video wasn't popping up there. Hey, everybody. My name's Chris Melisinos, and I am the principal evangelist for video games here at AWS. And yeah, we're back with Boss Rush. I know. I've been away for a little while there due to January just being insane. But glad to be back here with the crew. We get to talk about all the awesome video game news that is worth jawing about. Right now with me, we have... Who wants to jump in first? Come on.
Sure.
If I wait long enough.
This is how we are the professionals at this stuff. We have Susan Cummings. Susan.
Oh gosh.
I am Susan Cummings. I run a brand new, super cool indie startup called 106 Games that I haven't talked about much yet. And yeah, and I've known you guys for like an eternity and excited to be here. I can only be here for half of it, but I'm excited to talk about things like Pocket Gamer.
Yes, and can't wait to hear more about your new studio. So yes, and then also with us is Mr. Mark Delora, who's decided to go off camera and go off mic as he's changing his songs. Look, when you go ahead and you join us every week, you're in it not for the professionalism, but for all the nonsense that ensues, right? And that's pretty much the way it goes. Isn't that right,
Definitely.
Susan?
And this is, I'd like to introduce Mark Delora's chair.
Yes, this is Mark Delora's chair. And so notice in the back in there, he has his giant Pikachu, right? His stuffed Pikachu there. Yeah. There's
a little robot, a little 3D printed robot, it looks like there in the back.
Yeah, looks like something there.
And a 3D printer.
That's right. Oh, and look,
that's Mark
he
sitting
has
in his
decided
chair.
to join us again.
Welcome back, Mark. We were just introducing everyone to your chair.
I'm going to try really hard not to curse a lot today, but I'm probably going to fail. So if you're offended by cursing, you should hang up now.
No, you're all good. You're all good. And let's go ahead and also bring in Mr. Dean Takahashi. And let's see, where is he? He should be popping up here shortly. Hey, there's Mr. Takahashi.
Hello.
What's happening, buddy?
I should hide my bathroom from you guys, huh?
Oh, you're bothered.
No! It is totally in keeping with how this is going so far for you to have the bathroom behind you.
Like I said, this is exactly what you should come to expect from the professionalism that we do here every week.
I'm going to just brush my teeth while we're...
Good, you. I need to brush mine too, actually.
Oh, you bums. You bums. Oh, yeah, Dean, take a big
got
bite.
some food on his
Having breakfast. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's what this is more like family, right? Than it is like a real news podcast. But holy cow. Yeah, I'm so glad to finally be back. Like I was telling a bunch of people before, January for me is January is a wash. So we'll have an 11-month 2025. That's the way I'm kind of viewing it right now. So
You might want to go to 10.
Well,
yeah, I think skip this month too.
Yeah, I'd skip this one. Move to March.
No, we still have dice. So this is my first.
Can I skip
dice.
4 years? Is that a thing?
Oh, you're going to
Can I skip
dice?
ahead 4 years?
Yeah, that's what I would like to do.
my very first dice. So I'm looking forward to to going there.
Oh, nice! I haven't been to dice in years. It's been a long time.
It always landed on like a weird time and getting ready for GDC, and we're right after the holidays. I just could never get out there. So Yeah.
Awesome.
But so getting ready for that. And of course, we have GDC in March. So we don't want to miss those two things, buddy.
Well, we might miss dice. Not sure yet.
Well, all right, we'll talk about that later. But we only have Susan for about 30 minutes. So why don't we go ahead and
Susan.
jump in and
She's got a timer on her watch. I saw.
Susan, what is pressing on your mind right now? What big news stories have tickled across the cranium that we should be discussing?
Well, let's see. Pocket Gamer was like 2 weeks ago. We haven't had a thing since then. So that was fun. I moderated an investment panel, the very last panel of the whole thing. I couldn't decide if we should all be insulted or if it was just that they wanted to keep people around because everyone wants to hear the people who have money to spend. Anyway, it was like the worst possible slot that we did this panel. and it was like back-to-back investment panels. So by the end of it, I was bored too. But anyway, there was a lot of talk about like what's happening, what to expect this year, and mostly it was a lot of nobody knows. But there did seem to be a lot of enthusiasm around the M&A market this year, which I'm sure Dean will have an opinion about. That is probably like the biggest thing that we're going to see pick up this year, and partly because prices have gotten really cheap. So I think it's, there's like this buyer's market thing going on, whereas last year people wanted big multiples. Now it's a little bit, more modest than that. And I guess alongside that, I saw that Dreams is trying to buy out their investors and taking in like debt and equity at like a $3 billion valuation or something like that.
Wait a minute, say that again?
Yes. It was yesterday. I guess I'm going to read this. I read that Dreams, the mobile developer in Turkey, is working on buying out their investors and raising like equity and debt to do that, to basically take back 70% of their company. But the valuation is like in the billions on the back of their mobile game success. Turkey is killing it, I gotta say.
That's a hefty valuation for sure.
Yeah, you're a little low. I'm going to see if I can bump you up on this side here.
Oh, okay. Get a little closer.
We're going to airdrop some equipment to Dean, and
Let's see. How's that sound?
a little better. Get right up on that mic, buddy.
Better.
All right.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah, that's good. I bumped your volume up a bit, so we're all right. You don't have to be completely present in the frame, but so all right. So now explain, because I missed this, so I'm still catching up on a bunch of news. So I'm looking to you all as the experts to hang out today.
So the Dreams, they're called Dreams, the mobile developer. They are in Turkey, and they announced, where was this? I'm just trying to quickly look. Here it is. They're discussing a $2.5 billion raise on the back of their Royal Match game. And it would allow them to raise new debt and equity and almost double their valuation that they received in 2022 and allow them to buy out their investors. Now, this is interesting specifically, to not get too like investor-y, sort of businessy, because I've heard that a lot of money is tied up in Dreams right now, where those investors don't have any liquidity of that investment. Like, they're doing really well, but it's getting really expensive to invest in Dreams because of that. So I'm kind of thinking this is interesting if they manage to do it and get the money back to those folks, to the Balderton and others who invested in them, that there'll suddenly be some liquidity for new game investment. There's my hot take.
And they could make that available for future investments and other things.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking and hoping. So that was that. The other thing I saw at Pocket Gamer, and this kind of like winds into the thing I linked earlier about this Midwest publisher that you wrote about, Dean, is there seems to be a hell of a lot of indie publishers cropping up. It seemed like almost every other person I spoke to told me they were starting an indie publisher this year at Pocket Gamer.
Well, surprise, independent developers are going to pop up and take all the oxygen out of the room right as we go forward. Yes.
No, publishers though, not developers.
Yeah, so it's still indie publishers, indie developers. The movement right now is towards smaller chunks of money to do a lot more different types of content and not play in that AA, AAA pool, right? Because it's deep now. The water in there is deep, Also, have you? So for those of you on here, do you all play Royal Match?
No.
Never.
No, you don't. So
nope.
I went ahead.
I see a lot of.
Yeah, see, exactly. So
I'm only vaguely aware it's a thing, despite the fact that it's so massive. It's about being completely honest.
I'm unaware that it's a thing.
And when someone told me about Dreams, I had to think about who that was. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about a game called Dreams. I feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so I finally, and I know Dean is blanked out here by the TV static. I don't know what's going on with yours, Dean. Everybody else is in just fine. But
Yeah, I can see his feed, but not on the share.
Exactly. So
Yep,
surprise, part of the web breaks, But we'll get him back in a minute. So, but Dean, we can still hear you. So I hadn't played this game before, but I got so tired of seeing all of those ads of like
that you decided to play it.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes, that I finally fell
it
to it. I'm
works.
like, let me see if it really does look like this, and it doesn't. Right? It doesn't look like the ads. But I'm like,
that game. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
It's an all right match three game, and we'll give it a shot, and yeah. So they got me. Damn it, their advertising got me.
Are you telling me the advertising works? No.
I know.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to download it.
There we go. There's Dean. Yeah, it's a decent match 3 game with some good mechanics to it, and
awesome.
And it looks really nice, super polished, and it doesn't feel overtly like trying to claw my wallet open.
Yeah. Boy, we really have settled in
decided
on what mobile games are, haven't we? Like match 3 game, perfect for mobile. Nobody's making RPGs anymore. Yeah. They're all like, nope.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
why reinvent the wheel?
Yeah. Well, you got it.
The wheels it's there.
You have to make sure that your content aligns with what people do on the device.
This is, I'm not going to say who, but this is what an investor said to me at Pocket Gamer, and maybe said on the panel, so maybe he didn't say it publicly, is that what he likes about Turkey and Israel is that they're not trying to reinvent the wheel and be clever. They're doing what works, and they're exploiting that and making it. Not for those of us who are interested in creativity and indie and all cool, but for people who just are like, how do I take this amount of money and turn it into that amount of money? They just they'll workhorse it and make it work,
That's
and
awesome.
data science.
Yeah, if they can figure out how to balance that and like make this game to fund their creative games, then that's the real win, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do what you have to do, so you get to do the things you want to do, right?
Yeah, maybe they love this, so I don't know.
I was going to say, or this is exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, that could be too. Yeah.
And just printing money on it, which is awesome. But are really good though that they're taking control over their over their company and their destiny, and not necessarily being completely beholden to investors they may have taken before, right? And that's the market that we're in right now, right? So, really cool. Well, awesome. What other big news?
Switch 2, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
There's that.
What did you think? So, hot takes, everybody. Give me a quick hot take.
I wanted to be excited.
Actually, no. We'll start with
Susan.
Since you went
I
ahead
just
and
wanted
hopped
to
the
say I
queue.
wanted to be excited, and I wasn't. Like it was just like the ad almost seemed to emphasize the weirdness of the fact. Like, it's bigger. It kept getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, so it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like a Steam Deck, right?
But do we need bigger? I kind of like little things that fit in my pocket, so I don't quite know why the Switch needed to be bigger. It seemed like it was, to me, it's the perfect size right now. So I wasn't as excited as I wanted to be.
Okay, Dean, what about you?
I mean, they only showed it for 2 minutes, and so we didn't really. Got more questions, like, that the way they did the animations, it kind of made it look like you could use your controller as a mouse, and that seemed strange. And it didn't really explain all the buttons and what where
Dean just vanished again.
they're also going to be sort of locked into place as with a magnet instead of a slot, I think, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of those things seem incremental. I mean, I do think that they did need to move the I guess the platform into the space where it is more competitive with things that are coming out, like the Steam Deck and all the other Steam Deck clones out there, and then be able to run something like Call of Duty on it if they want to. So have it enable developers who are making a game for the PlayStation and for the Xbox to also do it for Nintendo without spinning up a whole new team, right? And that was the case before this. That Nintendo always required such different gameplay and art and everything like that. That you had to do that from the ground up,
right?
Rather than right now, I mean, with the Switch 2, I think some of the value for the development community is you can run what you create on other platforms on this platform as well. Nintendo may not have wanted that, but it was always sort of a drawback of their platform.
Yeah.
That they were sort of penalized on having content because of the way how old the platform really was, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, especially so things like, a Call of Duty that came out, you're like, well, that is, but it's not really one I'm playing every other place, right? How about you, Mark? What'd you think?
I thought that I'd heard that they were going to try to be competitive with Xbox and PlayStation from a technical perspective. And
Which Xbox or PlayStation?
The current one.
Oh.
And I don't think I think somewhere along the line, maybe.
He's in there.
Yeah.
I told you I'm back. We're back.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
So my takeaway always from Nintendo is that they're going to do something unexpected from a gameplay mechanic, perspective that we don't understand and maybe have to mess around with, like the Wii, right? Nobody saw the Wii coming. We were like, whoa, that's totally different and awesome. And then the Switch came out, and we're like, oh, I can take it to go, or I can play it at home. That's awesome. So what's the thing with this? I'm like, is it mice? I think what I keep pondering over is like how you really make a platform that's competitive with Xbox and PlayStation, which are plugged into the wall, and have it be a device that you drag around with you that doesn't weigh 5 kilos and have a battery that lasts for 30 minutes. So maybe they backed off of that intention. Maybe I saw that the difference between plugged in and not plugged in performance wise, rumors are that there's maybe a more dramatic difference. But I'm sitting here pondering like the using the controllers as mice thing is interesting, but then I wonder like what's the modality when you're on the go, because you're not going to be able to use those as mice. I've been wondering if maybe they'd add like a near field radar on the back side of the circuit board or something like that, so you could move your hands around in front of the platform. I don't know if that makes sense.
Or behind it, like the Vita.
Or behind it. Yeah, I'm just sitting here wondering like what else there might be to it. Yeah, I guess I'm just holding out hope.
All right. Well, here's my hot take on it, which I love what they did with it. And guess what? It's worked for Apple for how many years now? Has the iPhone been in market? So what they did is they took everything that made the Switch unique, right, for its type of thing. And remember, everybody said handheld gaming's dead. Just like they all said PC gaming is dead. And guess what the biggest platform for development is right now? PC games, right? They said, oh, it's dead. And, they were able to go ahead and kind of rebuild it. They added some new features, made it a little bigger. That's good for people like me and have bigger hands. So I love that. The magnetic stuff, though, that's my concern is how easily is it going to be able to pop off there. But when it comes to understanding what the new features are, and I know they're going to go ahead and announce all of that later, Darren Gladstone, friends of all of ours, I was talking to him last night, and he said, in my dreams, here's what I want. There's an extra button on one of the controllers. And he said, what would happen if when you press that button, it basically mirrored it to the dock that's connected to the TV? So now you have a split screen environment like a DS or like the Wii U. And I was like, I never even thought about that.
That'd be cool.
That would be amazing.
I don't think it has the GPU horsepower to do that.
Why? Depends on the game.
Sure. you want a game that looks not very good, go
No,
for
but
it.
even if you've taken a game that's
Even
there,
looks like a DS
even if
game.
you're taking a game that's there,
Yeah.
you're taking a game that's there, but what you're doing is you're putting the map and inventory and information on
I know.
the
Yeah,
screen
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So you don't need the
I
horsepower.
love it. I think Darren's brilliant, and that's a great idea. And I'm hesitant to believe they're going to do it, but I love
I
it.
would be a
Darren's
little-
brilliant.
Yeah, one thing
be
I'd
great.
be a little wary about there is that you could hit that button by accident, and what would happen then?
Yes.
So maybe a button for that particular purpose may not be
Look, I just won it.
ideal.
It's not just a power button, is it? It kind
guys,
of looks like a power button.
just stop.
I don't understand why people are freaking out about what looks like. I mean, there's that little button is on the Switch controller now on one side. It's just not on the other. Or did I miss something?
And actually, Dee makes a good point. You know how many times I hit the take a picture button by accident?
Oh, that's what that.
Oh
button is.
yeah.
There you go. I don't know.
Well, Switch
Anyway.
2, though, yes.
Exciting to-
Switch 2, it is exciting to think about what they're going to do. And we know they're going to do something super creative and like the 1, 2, 3 Switch, or the whatever it was, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. I remember when that first, when it first launched, everything, we were at E3, and I was with this woman, Amanda, who was at EA at the time, and we were at, this bar area in LA right next to the convention center, and I popped the Switch out, and then we were standing up there doing Gunslinger and all these other things, and people were like, what's going on? So people then started moving it around, and I was like, yeah, only Nintendo can get away with this. Right, with doing this stuff. And then I never played the game
true.
again. Right?
Oh,
Oh my goodness, how much Labo cardboard do I have at home that I haven't assembled
I
yet?
know. Yeah, I love it.
All right,
Labo
so
stuff.
Switch 2, who knows? I'm glad that they went ahead and dropped it though, and
Yeah.
we'll see what pops up soon. I
There's,
have a news story that I would like to
go
share
ahead.
with you all,
Yeah.
which is this one here. The Video
Oh, yeah.
Game History Foundation just launched the digital library yesterday. And so we have to go ahead and give us a yay and an applause because that thing was an 8-year project. So I remember meeting Frank Cifaldi with Frank back in 2017 at GDC when he had the idea to start the foundation. And one of the things that we discussed was, what should it actually be doing? And we kind of landed on the fact that the type of material that they can archive and the deep understanding of where all those pieces of ephemera fit into the world is kind of like the secret sauce, right, for the foundation. And we brought Phil over to be the basically librarian. He has a background in kind of in that world. We brought him over, and they've been working on this stuff for the longest time, and they just went ahead and launched it. It is an incredible resource. Have you all been to it yet? Have you seen the site?
No, I've seen the pictures, but no, I haven't been there.
Yeah, this is
So
how far I got to.
We went ahead and put this here. I basically have it up and running right now. And so it's a lot of the collections of magazines, of internal documents, of badges from conferences. And the idea is that you can then go in and assemble from all these different pieces where a particular person in the industry kind of lands across all of this different ephemera. Or one of the examples Phil showed us was like finding like the first mention of Bubsy and how it was compared to other characters, mascots at the time. And so for researchers really trying to paint and understand the progression of all this stuff in our industry, this is going to be, I think, the #1 resource for us, because it's not just about saving games, it's about putting it all in context of all of the materials that sit around games. And it's pretty amazing. So if you haven't been there, go ahead and check it out. And everybody listening, kick them a donation, right? It's a 501c3. I happen to sit on the board, full disclosure, and just so proud of what Frank and the team did over there. They are just, it's incredible. It's a ton of fun to comb through. So definitely check it out.
That's really neat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so
that's
hats
a
off to
fun
that
story.
team over there. They're doing great work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's your next? Give me something else. What else should we be talking about? And people that are listening right now, go ahead and share your comments or things that you would like to hear us go ahead and highlight. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Well, the numbers for the sort of year end are coming out on some things like gaming M&A and financing deals. And so Drake Star Partners had their report come out this week, and all the deals, if you combine them, like the private investments and M&A deals, the money pouring into the game industry was up 39% in 2024. And so, including also, improvement in public game company valuations as well, which were up 10% based on the top 30 public game companies too. M&A itself was up 21%. There were 198 deals valued at 10.5 billion, and it's nice to see improvement year over year happening, because it's been weak for a while, and good to see this. And the VCs on the gaming side raised more than 1.8 billion. That means they have that money to invest in 2025 and beyond. So it's, generally speaking, from a financial point of view, it's healthier than it was. At the very same time, we've had lots and lots of layoffs happen. More than 15,000 layoffs happened in 2024. It was 10,500 the year before that, and I think 8,000 the year before that. It's not an industry that's where all of the indicators are completely in sync. There's some good indicators and there's some bad ones, and I think the outlook for 2025 is not so bad. We do have still a lot of studio closings and layoffs happening in January this month as well. So far for the month of January, there were the game layoff tracker said there were 19 different layoffs or studio closings, with more than 500 jobs at least identified as being lost during the month. And then Amir Satvat is he has some relatively good news. Like, he thinks there's going to be 9,800 layoffs based on his projections for 2025, which is better than 15,000 last year, right? And he also thinks that there's going to be more hiring to go with all of those layoffs across the industry. So, it is a better picture for 2025, but it's not magical.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, one of the more higher profile ones that was just done was Phoenix Labs, who's laying off majority of employees 2 years after their Forte deal, which I thought is, well, first, it's, heart goes out to everybody affected by any layoff, but it's also highlights I think the problem that we had in terms of like Web3 adoption, right? By and large, in fact, Dean, one of the articles that you linked to in your kind of predictions for 2025 was something like 93% of all Web3 game companies are basically gone. And so that number just continues to hold true, with the 300 and some odd that come in, 260 some odd leave, basically leaving it at a breakage of like 93 or 94%, something like that, of these things spinning up and going down. And I find that interesting, because then Sony just announced blockchain lab.
Sony has some heavy investments going into their own blockchain that's called Sodium, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it actually, but yeah, they are spinning this up, and they're spinning it up in the larger Sony corporation. They have not said so much about whether they're actually doing blockchain games, right? And so I
was going to say,
they may be spinning this up for creators, for developers of various kinds of things, for movies, TV shows, etc. So, there's no indication yet that there's a lot of PlayStation support for this.
Sure.
I was going to say one thing on that before I have to jump. I got to jump in a second, Chris. I was just going to say the one thing to keep in mind is that blockchain in Asia generally has been very different from over here. The NFT craze never really happened there. From everything I've heard, it's more about like, let's find some actual meaningful use cases for this stuff, like in Korea and Taiwan and Japan. And so maybe it's not so surprising if they're trying to look at it through that lens of doing something, serious tech with it, as opposed to like, let's sell some NFTs.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think that part of that then comes also down to perhaps it's a platform of enough scale to be able to support this that creates an incentive to try to find those things versus a lot of the stuff that we've seen, which is a lot of money going in, but it's smaller startups and they're trying to spin quickly and kind of find their way forward, right? So again, it's for me, it's always like not against any of the tech, but let's figure out where it's going to be best placed and utilized, right, for the industry. So people can build on top of that stuff. So, well, Susan, I know that you have to run because it's late. Thank you always for joining us on Friday evenings. And say hi to Lee and say thank you and apologies.
I certainly will. Yeah, it's gaming night.
Oh, yes. Then go. Yeah. All right, Susan, have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
All.
We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye, guys.
And continue with one other sort of thread on Sony there, which is they appointed Hiroki Totoki to the CEO job.
Yes. Yeah. I have the article up here for everybody.
Yeah, and they also made Hideaki Nishino into the sole CEO of the PlayStation division, Sony Interactive Entertainment.
Yeah.
And that means Herman Holst is still running a lot of the game development business, the studios. But he's no longer he no longer has the title of co-CEO of that business, and so Nishino is going to have that title. And interesting move. He's more like a chief financial officer, I think, and so before they had co-CEOs where there was a balance between the business guy and the creative guy, right? And so now Sony's PlayStation business is run by the business guy.
Which is interesting, especially since we're just talking about Web3 and blockchain, right? Which are typically used in financial stuff. And now there's a, the person running PlayStation comes from finance. I do like at the bottom of your article here too, when you talk about, not recognizing people running the company anymore. And I was going through that list before and going, yes. Yeah, you're exactly right. So it just also shows how long we've been around the space to see our friends, ascend and then move on to different opportunities and things like that. Somebody, JP Isham in the chat said, speaking of Sony, is there any thoughts about Roblox having more users than PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox combined? Is the entry point for games now Roblox?
Matthew Ball has done a very good job of highlighting Roblox and its significance. And his slide deck, we haven't done this in so long that we haven't actually mentioned his slide deck yet of 224 slides on the state of the game industry that he issued, and within that there's a sizable section on the games that are reaching the young folks, right? And so that includes Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft, and there's this whole generation that's growing up inside these places, and they're not watching TV, they're not watching movies,
right?
So much. And the brands are all in a state of panic that they can't reach them. And so, if the brands are missing out on the youngest generation, that means in one generation, the brands are gone, right? and so this is why you have Disney investing into Fortnite and Epic Games. And Roblox does have an enormous number of users. Like they're above 400 million monthly, closing in on I think 80 million daily, and that the size of this platform, does far exceed a lot of the other platforms, like
Yeah.
the console business.
Well, I just want to point at the fact that you describe the audience as the young folks. So, man, what are you doing? but I mean, you are right. And, we do know this about Gen Alpha, that their number one language, right, that they choose to communicate through is video games above everything else that they do. And so now it is, and JP also pointed out in here, you had Gen A and Z is almost inaccessible except through Roblox and UGC, right? So platforms that allowed you to stamp your own personality or engage in a very personal way, those typically win. Environments versus individual games, right? Those are on the rise. But the question is, how many of those can exist, right? Without really segmenting the market in massive numbers if you have particular set on Roblox and particular, although we're not binary, right? So people that play Fortnite also play Roblox, right? Mark, what about you? This is a space that you look at all the time, especially around education and reaching the youth audience.
Yeah, I think I'd separate Roblox away from Fortnite, just because I still see people age out of Roblox, and it's seen as kind of the platform for kids.
Right.
Whereas Fortnite, it doesn't feel that way. And I know Roblox is trying to double down and do more content for older kids and young adults. And so that's good. So we'll see how that goes. It's certainly technically capable of doing fancier things. We've seen that. The demos are gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't stuck yet. So it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, yeah, I think one of the things that I wish existed that doesn't seem to exist is, when the industry was smaller, we all agreed that we would share sales figures a bit, right? All the ESRB data we used to have back in the day.
Yep.
It was really helpful to be able to understand where the market was, where people were moving, what was popular, what was not popular, and that we don't have that same kind of transparency exposure into what's going on inside of Fortnite and Roblox or Minecraft. And I wish we had that. It would be super helpful for everybody.
Yeah, I complained about that in my column last week.
Did you really?
disappearing transparency in the game industry. Right?
Yeah.
And, we're getting the most transparency from people who are doing their second jobs, like Amir Sathan, right?
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
The game companies themselves are not sharing. So.
Yeah, but do we find that as a result of more publicly traded companies or companies that are now platforms versus just individual games?
Well, also things like Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard and all of the data that Activision Blizzard used to share as a public company has now disappeared, and it's 3 sentences we get in the Microsoft earnings report about how the game business is doing. Right?
Yeah. Except when, they get pulled into court and all the information comes out anyway in discovery, right? So probably better to share it and own it versus, taking everybody by surprise.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big hearing coming up in the Epic versus Google trial next week. And trials like that are some of the things that supply a lot of actual figures and happenings and data that we get now. Right? And so, were it not for some of these very public lawsuits, we would not know how the game business runs. Right?
Yeah. Makes me want to reach out to the people who originally started. Sorry, I said ESRB. I meant NPD, all the old NPD data. Why is it that at that point in time that seemed like the right thing to do to help grow the industry, but that now, maybe that
also
now
known
it's
as
also
Circana now, right? the
Circana? I don't even know what
Circana.
that is.
Yeah,
Circana, really?
that's what NPD is.
Wow. All right. Well, easier to remember, I guess.
And Circana doesn't have access to a lot of the data, and they never had global data. Right. So,
no, that's true. Yeah, it was pretty much North America. Yeah, maybe it's worth making the rounds and talking to people and seeing if there's a way to stir up something like that again. If it serves the industry and makes the industry grow more, help people to take fewer risks that crash their business, and helps the people who share the data to grow theirs, then there's probably a case to be made. I don't think people I don't believe people are not sharing data because they're evil. I think they're not sharing data because they don't think it's in their best interest and they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's fair. And speaking of data, I want to make sure that we went back here real quickly. So this is Matthew Ball's website. This is the presentation Dean was talking about. This is the state of video gaming in 2025. And you can go and click right through here and, make that screen a little bigger than I have it. And flip through this 220-page slide deck that basically includes just about every statistic or metric that you could possibly want.
Yeah,
about
it's
the
an
games
amazing
industry.
amount of work there.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to when I had a brief stop outside of Games Direct was like the Mary Meeker report. Everybody waited around for that report to drop. It figured out and charted for the next year what the internet was going to be. And Matthew has really very insightful, very direct. Right, and definitely go ahead and check them out.
Coming back. Sorry, Chris, you disappeared, and then your entire feed
Oh
disappeared.
no! Don't worry about what don't worry about what you can. Don't worry about what you can see. It didn't disappear in the feed.
Okay.
It didn't disappear in the feed. You're good.
It was
You
gone
are
for like a
good.
minute.
Don't worry about that.
Okay.
JP again in the chat said this is the data that I lean on. Yeah. It's pretty fantastic.
What happened to the Mary Meeker decks?
Mary, you're doing them.
Yeah,
Why
she's
did
not.
she stop? I don't know. I
did.
thought maybe I was just not paying attention, but yeah, it's been
No,
for a
no.
long time.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's also a lot of data that was good that came out recently in the GDC survey, and that was more than a week ago now. And they noted that the attitude that developers have toward AI is getting worse, and so. During the last year, it went from 18% of the folks, definitely having a negative perception of AI to 30% now. The flip side of that is 70% of the people either like it or they don't mind it, and so AI is becoming like a reality, for game developers, I think, and how to use it, how to study it to make sure it's done right or whatever. But the trend is not so good in terms of negative perception, based on things like, the failure to respect copyright or other kinds of problems. The eliminate use of it to eliminate jobs, right? Rather than create them. I think, it's there were some telling figures in there. The other piece of data that was hitting home in a big way was that 1 in every 11 developers who were interviewed for this survey had been laid off in 2024. Right? So,
I didn't realize that.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah.
Of folks, almost 10% of the population getting laid off.
Wow.
And it makes sense. There's I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, it's just a sad number.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And I mean, look, so we're still early in the AI conversation, right? As an industry, and not just in games, but, overall. I mean, I was there when when Mosaic first dropped, right? And, well, we all were because we're the same age, but I would say, the web grew really fast, but AI is just on a massive tear, right? The amount of hardware, the amount of changes that are constantly shifting the frame is just, it's exhausting to try to keep up with it all. And I think, especially on the creative side, people are like, test, play around, see where it can be of use, but we have to take a cautious approach until we figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. And one of the things that kind of popped into my head, and we see all this stuff on LinkedIn and everything else where people, somebody had posted a clip of Adam Scott from Severance, right? I don't know if you've seen the show, but it's amazing show. And they're like, oh, look, you were able to completely swap it with Keanu Reeves, and it took one person all this time, and no time to do it. And I was like, that's awesome. Now switch him for The Rock. Size up the body, change the how are you doing that? Well, it's like, okay, yes, so these are great tricks. you happen to pick an actor that looks almost exactly the same with the same hair and the same body type, great. So yes, it's going to help us to be better and to do these jobs better. But let's not make these broad sweeping things that this is the end of Hollywood and tomorrow you're going to just, barf into a prompt what you want to see and instantly it all comes together. It's like, well, that's pretty magical. Let me know when
it's probably worth considering that like the people who are well, there are a lot of angles to this to the AI conversation, but in particular around AGI and the potential of AIs doing terrible things.
Yeah.
I think that there's a belief that the growth of AI technology will continue along an exponential or asymptotic curve, and I'm not really sure that the data agrees with that. And there are plenty of examples of other curves happening in the world. Like Moore's law is a perfect example, right? Or it's like Moore's law was solid for 50 years or something, and then we kind of ran out of headroom and had to go a different direction to continue to get performance improvements. So, AI is on a tear now and it's growing fast, and now they're switching over to a reasoning-based model to get different kinds of growth. And there's a time-based model with the DeepSeek stuff.
Yeah.
DeepSeek
is worth explaining a bit and talking about.
Mark?
You have a take on that, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing. I think what's also amazing is how many people seem to think that DeepSeek is some kind of scam, and that like they've copied ChatGPT, or that they were running on stolen NVIDIA hardware or whatever, instead of what seems to be the case. I don't have any firsthand data, right? But what seems to be the case is that they had a bunch of older hardware, and they found a clever workaround to the fact that they had older hardware, because you work inside the box that you have, and you're creative inside the box that you have. And they made something, they tried a technique that other people haven't tried because they weren't pressed to try that. And wow, it works great. Also, there are some issues with it. The data that you have inside the model is the data you have inside the model. You run it through a number of times. You're not generating new data. You're doing reasoning. You're checking to see if you're had the right answer. And all
interesting result was that for $6 million worth of GPUs and cost, they were able to do something that was very competitive with OpenAI, and that. OpenAI had spent billions of dollars on this and was spinning up all these data centers with AI processors in them to support this. And NVIDIA took a 15% hit in the stock market in the past week because these guys showed that you can do this without all those GPUs, and that. There is relevance for the game industry in that, I think that the scarcity of AI chips and the cost of all those data centers was not going to support, the common use of AI inside games. Like if you're paying $1 to use those data centers or so for every single person who's doing AI queries inside your game. Like asking the NPC a question, and the NPC has to go fetch the data from the data center and come back with the answer. Then that's a good experience for the player in that, like, oh, this is a smart NPC. But there's cost associated with it that was going to drive these game companies out of business, right? And and so now, if you reset that and say, oh, actually, it may cost 100 times less, then you're talking about, oh, now we can think of how to use this more practically. Right?
I mean, Dean, you even brought it up in an article about EA and Andrew Wilson talking about how they're using a very specific, they want to build a very specific LLM that's only built on their content to help enable AI in there. And so we had talked about this before too, right? These smaller language models that are very highly focused on doing a very specific thing, right? Or a very specific subset of things, like just all of the lore and materials and assets in The Sims. Like, great, I don't need to go outside of that framework, so you can do that. But the interesting thing is, they talk about the operation of DeepSeek, but they haven't, to my knowledge, talked about the cost it took to train the model.
They have, actually.
Okay,
and it was
good.
way less.
Yeah. But it's still a subset, right? Isn't it like a heavily engineering-focused model? Isn't that true? Because I was reading, somebody had done a matrix that showed a bunch of different LLMs and said, when it comes to like engineering stuff, phenomenal. When it comes to doing kind of like more general knowledge, not so
I mean,
good.
it did do pretty good on the benchmarks that you use to test whether an LLM knows what it's talking about or not, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that respect, it is pretty competitive. I think that what people are questioning is really the narrative about, did you really do this with so few GPUs, right? Or as Mark says, did you access GPUs somewhere else? And I think that's a good question.
Well, I do like the fact that too. I mean, look, this thing just came out and already it's being embraced by the other platforms. Right? I know at AWS, for example, Bedrock, which is the LLM and AI platform. Platform is really not the right word, environment in which you're able to run all these different LLMs to see which one does better for a very specific type of thing. And so you can mix and match those pieces. They've already released a guidance on how to go ahead and use it, right? And then how to actually download the model and use it locally too, if there are concerns about information export and stuff like that. So this is all moving at a breakneck speed, right? And it's just something we're just going to have to continue to deal with. So, but in addition to that, the thing that I've been getting my head wrapped around more and really doing a much deeper dive is in quantum computing. Okay, the math, of course, is just stupid, right?
Amazing.
Right? But just reading further about, the fact that, these are a particular outer ring electron as the qubit, and then how it's aligned with the transistor, and why they need to keep, quantum entanglement from screwing up by keeping it close to zero, like all this stuff. It's fascinating to me, but still really complex, right? But what I love is that we can use games to learn about this stuff. So there is a researcher over here at AWS that created this web game called the Qubit Factory and just went ahead and published it. And you can go in and basically learn how quantum computers work. And, like if you go in through the tutorial, it's like, okay, we're going to show you need to get, bits from one side to the other. And then you need to get, bits that are spinning from one side to the other. And then it starts to layer on more and more and more complexity in these scenarios that the robot makes up for you. Completely free. It's called qubitfactory.io. And so in addition to a lot of the reading I've been doing and watching videos, I've now started playing with the Qubit Factory, and it's great. And it's absolutely great.
There's an interesting comment that one of the analysts at the CTA made at CES, and it was an interesting impression they created. But if the 2020s are going to be known as the era of AI, the 2030s are going to be the quantum era. So that kind of, it's a longer timeline, but I would think, like, wait, is there anything that's going to come after AI? Because they're just going to wipe us out at some point, right? but yeah, it's a hopeful comment, that humanity continues into the quantum era in the 2030s.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. Now, when we're coupling these systems that one of the big gaps that AI systems currently have is an inference engine, right? It doesn't really understand how to infer things. In fact, I was away, with the family last weekend, and we were talking about AI, and then I remember watching this researcher talk about the problem with clocks that AI has, that a lot of the models have. And so I said, okay, draw me a picture, and I won't say which model I use. I said, okay, give me a picture of 5 clocks all in a row. Start the first clock at 22 minutes past 3, and each subsequent clock just add 5 more minutes to the time of the clock before it. And it drew 5 perfect clocks, all with their hands at 10 and 10. Because it turns out that that's the most aesthetically pleasing way to show a clock. And so all advertisers and watch manufacturers use 10-10. So it doesn't understand time. It just understands what a clock face is. That's and it's funny. Like, so right, so these are the things that when we are looking at objectively and understanding the best use for these things, understanding where we can, the gaps that we have to fill. The fact that quantum computing is a massive inference engine because it's holding multiple states simultaneously and then pushing everything forward at the same time, means that when you start to really get to the point where we're hitting that, 10,000 qubit, level against these AI models, I mean, it's going to completely change not just both of those industries. It's going to change the way we think about compute in the world, right? And it's fascinating, brain melting, alien, but it's awesome. But it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to think that normal people will ever use quantum computers, unless there's some brilliant person going to need to find a way to make it make sense. The way that you solve problems in quantum is just completely different than like the procedural way we use computers now, and program computers now. It's just, they're designed for something else, and they do something else really well. They're not going to do AI really well. They're going to do other things really well.
Right. Right. Or maybe they'll show all the gaps in the model and go, nope. I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like, no, this is AI information. This is human information. Right?
Yeah. I'm hesitant to think that any model over like, any reasonable model is larger than hundreds of billions of weights right at this point. And a quantum computer holds like, how many qubits did you say? Like not very many states at once. So we got some distance to cover.
It's only like 1,000. I think what IBM hit like the.
I know, it's like hundreds, right?
No,
like 250 or 800 or
1,000 qubits.
Okay,
right.
But only like 2/3 of those are usable because the other third are interfered with.
Right. Right. And this is what I'm learning about.
It's all
quantum
difficult.
Entanglement, right, and stability and all that other stuff, right?
Yeah, we're gonna learn a lot. There's a lot of distance to cover, and we're gonna learn a lot of things along the way.
We are. I mean, the efficiency of it is just basically nil, right, or close to it, because to your point. Vibrations at an atomic level. But we're going to need that. I mean, you were talking about the problem with Moore's Law. The problem, we think we can get to 1 nanometer within like the next 2 years. Then that's it. Like, we're going to need new architectures because a nanometer now is atomic.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. We didn't mean to go all the way down that. But again, a video game to teach you about the complexities of quantum computing. It's awesome. And I put the link in the chat there. So before we go, guys, because we're wrapping up here, and I do have to kind of cut up almost on time. Tell me what you're playing, Mr. Takahashi. What are you doing?
I'm actually getting started on Civilization 7 in preview format.
Whoa! Awesome!
That comes out on February 11th, and one of the big new launches of the year. So should be a lot of fun.
Well, I know you're going to be then perfectly matched to Mark, because Mark will be like, "Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's play."
No, I don't play other people in Civ because I get killed.
How about you, Mark? What do you?
I haven't been playing a lot. I've been mostly yelling at people on Twitter and trying to support my friends who are in the U.S. federal government who are having an adventure right now. Yeah. But Raf Koster's game Stars Reach has been doing some testing. And I've gotten in there and just started looking around and understanding that world. He's built he's the guy who did Star Wars Galaxies, right?
Star Wars Galaxies, worked on Ultima Online.
So he's got an MMO with a very, very dynamic world that they're building where you can, completely change the landscape. I didn't know that.
Over there as well, yeah.
So it's exciting to see where that's going. I think they're going to do a Kickstarter soon, so keep your eyes out for that.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a chance to go in and play around in it for a while now. And what's really cool about it is that not only is it this complex and nested system, but they have a web methodology to how things are added, so you can literally have other worlds that can be connected to your world all through basically links on the back end and create this massive infrastructure without requiring all of the typical sharding and things like that we see in MMOs. And everything in the world is destructible, deformable, mutable, and you can create economies around. It's insane what they built, and I'm wishing the best of luck, because it is. I mean, it is deep. It is deep and fun, So yeah, definitely go ahead and check out Stars Reach for sure. I haven't had much chance to play anything really. Still going through Indiana Jones. Oh, so incredible. And then fired up Cyberpunk 2077 again.
Nice.
My gosh, I just forgot how gorgeous that game is. But yeah, with DICE coming up in a couple of weeks and then GDC right after, Not going to be a lot of time to play games, but getting ready for these big game conferences, right? So that's pretty much it for this week.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to thank, of course, my co-host, Dean Takahashi, Susan Cummings, who had to ditch out here, and Mark Delore. Thanks, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. We're back to a more regular schedule now, now that we got dumb January over with. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing you all this week. And, of course, hit us up on LinkedIn. Hit us up, wherever you see us. If there are, subjects, topics that you want to go in and see, guests that you want to appear. I promised in December that we're going to start bringing guests on, and we are. So I'm working on putting a list together. If there are people you want to hear from in the industry, let us know, and we'll go ahead and invite them on. But until then, you all have a great weekend.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
You too.
Work.
Good to see you guys.
All right, gang.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.